And again, one more question is that what are the certifications would be ideal for you to getting into cybersecurity, right? So we'll talk a little bit about certifications. I'll talk about what are the main certifications you can look into that if you are new to the cybersecurity part. Then again, we also look at how to set up a Kali machine and things like that for that. All right. So, and other places also you can check out is what are the vulnerable pages where you can actually download and practice certain things. So we'll look into that. So
Mr.
yeah.
Karthik, I have sent you one message.
So from a certification perspective, right? So what is the importance of certification, right? So that is important. Certifications in a job market are important. The main reason is that it will get you an interview, right? The problem with certifications is it proves your knowledge, but it does not prove your wisdom, right? So you might have a technical skill set, but how do you use that in a particular way to improve the organization better and do the process improvement? All those things are going to be there out there. But interview certification plays a very important part. It will get you interviews. A lot of times, what is the issue is that a lot of people are applying a lot of places, and especially when you're new, if you have no experience or little experience, or if you're trying to jump from one stream to another stream, the problem is that the HR will not have an idea because predominantly your resume does not end up in the technical manager hands first. It has to go through the HR, and only then after HR is finalizing it or shortlisting your resume, it goes to the technical team. A lot of times your resumes has to meet both HR requirements and things. And one of the places where HR it will help you to shortlist at an HR level is your certifications out there. Right? It plays a very important role. It is, I've seen, even I've shortlisted a lot of candidates. If they're having a certain certifications, I will make sure at least give them an interview, irrespective of they have a work experience or not. Because in certain cases, we're looking at a fresher and we want some base understanding from them. All right, base understanding. So a lot of times we get a lot of resume which will tell they know the skill set, but they will not have any certification. The chances of me taking up a risk, wasting my half an hour to 45 minutes on them is bit less compared to a guy who is going to be certified out there. So now we understood why certification is important. Certifications is especially important, prove your skill set, help you to get interviews. In some cases, depending on the certifications, which is going to help you with securing the job also, because that is there. And nowadays we are seeing in job market, there are certain minimum requirement certifications, right? So one of the most common certifications is what we see is CompTIA Security Plus. This is a very important certificate, and this certificate helps you with the basics part of it, and it will give a lot of credibility out there in the interviews also. This basically talks about cybersecurity. It also helps you out understanding to you whether the cybersecurity role, what you're looking at, is it the right role for you? You'll be able to understand, and then again, it will also give you a roadmap about how your career is going to be there in cybersecurity. Right? Uh, this is a must-have certificate for any cybersecurity role. Right? At the same time, one of the main reasons why we go for CompTIA Security Plus, I would recommend. So if you don't have any cybersecurity certifications or you have not done any other kind of certifications and you're looking at a IT related security certifications and getting into cybersecurity, Security Plus is a very good thing. The main thing is it is at something can be at a medium level certification. right? This is something most of you can clear it. The cost is also going to be less, and it will also have that credibility attached to that particular path, right? I think predominantly it is a multiple choice MCQ. You do get a lot of support from taking up the certification, the content that is going to be there, and it is a lot of support is there. And there's a lot of material also available to help you out with that part. So this is your first certification, and if you're not worried about whether to check into cybersecurity or not, this gives you a very good place to start. All right. So that is your CompTIA certificate. So next certification that you can think about is going to be CH. Right. This is from EC Council. Right. Certified Ethical Hacker. This was a default certificate before, right? It's still valid, but amount of credibility around this certification is bit less. The main reason is there is a lot of people are clearing it. They're able to find terms and things and all. It does not have the credibility. So again, it is also on the expensive side. For the money you're spending out there, it does not give you the same kind of so value back for that. But again, this is also related to penetration testing, right? The whatever they're talking about reconnaissance phase and everything, they are going to talk more about those things, and that's going to be present out there, right? And again, this is an MCQ functionality, right? So if you're going for a pen testing certification, you want to get into pen testing, I would suggest, something called as an OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Pen Tester, right? So this is a particular a proper pen test, right? And predominantly it will just prove you your ability to take up the pen testing role. And this is a hands-on 24-hour exam. This is not a multiple choice question. This is a practically, you will be given certain servers. You have to hack them, completely compromise, get root access for them. And it is 24 hours. Then again, you will have additional 24 hours to do a report. And once both of them is complete, and if you're compromised, at least 3 to 4 missions out of 5, you will be able to clear. It's very, very difficult. The cost is also very high. I think probably around $6,600 for 3 months of lab plus one exam attempt. Okay. And there is a very good chance this will not be sufficient. I think a lot of people will usually take up, 1 month additionally. Lab access is going to charge you around 350, and on a roughly people take about 5 months, and overall it might cost you up to $2,500 on an average. Like a lot of people are there, I know a lot of people who have just done the 3 months course in 15 days and then taken the exam and finished it off. And there are people who have taken the exam without taking up the course also. But you have to take the course is mandatory. Without taking the course, you can't take the exam. So this has a higher credibility when it goes there, but cost is the main drawback for this particular part of that. The main thing, this is an advanced level. They will, if you go to the website, they will tell this is an intermediate level. This is an intermediate level for an experienced pen tester, but not an advanced. It is not going to be intermediate for someone who is really starting afresh in IT, right?
That
It
is
is
a
going
good
to,
one.
yes.
Intermediate one for experienced people.
Yes. Yeah. So because they have one more exam called OSCE, right? So they want to sell that also. So they cannot tell advanced for that. So they make this. I like that. But if you're something completely new to IT and not understanding a lot of how things work, it is not going to be easy at all, right? So I would suggest, to start off with Security Plus is going to be a very good place to start. Once you understand that Security Plus, how things are going out there, it will give you a clear cut picture how things are going to be there. All right. At the same time, what happens is that you may, and there's a way the industry is going right now, the pen test is no longer coming alone as a pen tester. You are more moving into DevSecOps, And when you're moving to DevSecOps, OICP does not make much of an impact of that, right? And even for when I am interviewing, a lot of organizations, they will hire randomly, blindly if they have OICP. But for me, I don't do that. For me, I've seen OICP candidates don't match my criteria. The mainly because OICP mainly talks about infra compromise, meaning operating system level, service level, and things like that. It does very little about web application security. Okay. But when my main of job, even though I work as a pen tester, my 90% of my work is into pen testing, hacking. Now, in that, most of my work is web applications. And that skill set is not explained out here. This is again, as OSCP is used as stepping stone to getting into IT careers and demanding a better salary package. That is what is going to be there. But jumping into that, it is like someone who does not know any swimming, jumping into the marina trench, that is the deepest part of the ocean. So that is how it can be. It can be quite overwhelming, right? And or like, if you have not banged your head to the wall, it means you have not given proper YCP. That is how irritating it can be, right? Once you've done there, it becomes much more. But Security Plus picks in a very good place to start. It is not too intensive. It is not too difficult to understand. It helps you with the concepts. At the same time, it also helps you with your interview preps as well. Because during your interview process, there are certain initial round questions that are going to be asked about you that will also be covered in Security Plus, right? And OSCP alone is not going to be sufficient because the roles are quite different nowadays, right? Even in pen testing organization where they're looking for pen testing, they're looking for internal pen testers who can do much more than that, who can set up DevOps certification and things like that. So it would be very good idea to go with Security Plus along with other cloud or Kubernetes certification or DevOps like Microsoft Azure or AWS certifications. Those has much more better weightage than going with OSCP based approach, right? So three certifications that are crucial here is you can take up Security Plus, CEH, and OSCP, and this is for pen testing alone, right? So once you have done your Security Plus, CH does not make much of a sense because the increment is bit less. That is not much of an impact that it brings. Probably having Security Plus is fine. Then you can go with OSCP. That is when you're talking about pen testing. Hello, right? From a DevSecOps perspective, right? Probably I would suggest, going with Security Plus. Then again, you can go with either AWS certification or Azure certification, right? So this is going to change based on the industry trend. Security Plus is going to remain constant, but AWS certification or Azure certification, you will have to do a lot of research, market research, and check out when you're looking at DevOps certificate, DevOps openings or DevSecOps openings out there. There will be certain prerequisites or plus points out there. Check out which certifications that they're looking out there. So based on that, you can take into consideration and then work based on that particular part of it. Right. So any questions related to certifications? Right.
Yes, I do
Yeah.
have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay, go.
So with regards to the AWS certification, can we be specific and saying maybe the AWS DevOps or DevOps associate or DevOps professional?
See, it depends on associate comes in with, I think it's a multiple choice question, and professional will have bit more. What associates, what I've seen is that they predominantly talk about AWS products in that particular domain, and they explain what that particular product is going to be, right? They'll talk about, archive storage and things like that. Then again, online storage, why archive storage is less cost and orange online storage is more expensive for that. In similar way, that is going to be there. From an associate, from a professional point of view, it basically focuses more on implementation, right? It focus more on implementation. Again, it depends on you. If you either you can tell, okay, I'll do one thing, let me spend all the time. Anyway, I'm spending time that I'm going to focus on professional and then going to finish it up front. Or you'll tell, okay, let me go slowly, take one by step. Let me finish professional associate, AWS associate. Once I'm comfortable with that, I will take that exam and then go with the professional, right? That you can take it as well. Professional will always have a higher weightage wherever you go compared to an associate.
Now,
Right.
one more way you can, Mr. Karthik, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The another certificate which along with your cyber security one, that if you have a CompTIA, then if you have a solution architect in any of Azure or AWS certificate, that will make a more sense because it is not only give you the DevOps as a like Azure also have a certificate for DevOps and the solution architect. So it is always preferable or make more sense if you take the solution architect. In that way, you can demonstrate that you do have an idea about cloud as well as same time in your DevOps. But if you do the only the DevOps part, it is more the weight shifted more towards DevOps, not in the cloud part.
Yes. Yes.
So solution architect, I think you should must have either AWS or Azure, any one of them.
If you're having 5+ years of experience, okay, I would suggest to go with a solution architect kind of a certification, right? Unless until you are more hands-on, someone who is working much more at the technical level than at a managerial level, then probably going into very specific ones makes sense. But you're someone who is working with more than 5+ years of experience and working at a managerial or administrative role where you're looking at the team doing the activities for you and you are overseeing the activities out there. At that time, solution architect makes much more sense because in a solution architect perspective, you are not thinking from a design technical perspective. You're thinking from a design perspective, right? What component can be used, in what way it has to be used, how the data is passing over from one entity to another entity. That makes more sense out there. And so, since you're someone who's going to be in a design level interaction out there, it helps, it makes it better out there. So I would suggest with that. Then again, even if you're going to a technical role, having a solution architect will also advantage for that.
Okay,
So
I have. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
yeah, so there's one other one that I was told is a certified DevOps engineer. How relevant is that for AWS certification?
You're talking from an AWS DevOps certification?
Yeah, DevOps certification, certified DevOps engineer.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what Menon was telling right now. To preferably to instead of going with DevOps certification focuses more on what you call from a DevOps activity, right? So are you running your DevOps on cloud is predominantly the case in most of the situations, but it does only prove your DevOps skill set. But if you're going from a solution architect perspective, from DevOps perspective, then it will prove not only your DevOps skill set as well as your cloud skill set as well in that way. So it will add more weightage into that way.
Now here is a thing. If you are looking for a DevOps job role, not DevSecOps job role, here we the first variable which we have like consider is like abstract. That is, we are looking for DevSecOps job role, right? Now for a DevSecOps job role, what I believe based on the market trend, the solution architects certificates make more sense because it is going to cover DevOps as well as your cloud activities or cloud experience. But if you are not applying for DevSecOps position, you are mainly focused on DevOps position, then you should have solution architect as well as your DevOps certificate as well. Then because you don't need that time CompTIA. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is assuming, for instance, the end goal for me is becoming a cloud security engineer, right? Cloud security. And presently, I already have 1, 2 AWS certification, and I am looking at maybe, like you mentioned, the Security Plus, and also AWS DevOps Associate. What about, would you advise, or is it relevant to have the AWS security professional, or you could say that is not compulsory? Once you have just the Security Plus and maybe the AWS DevOps, with all, I already have AWS solutions architect and practitioner. So with all of these, am I good to go for a cloud security engineer? Then lastly, in the DevSecOps, do you need to know anything, any programming language, like maybe Python? Because I saw some article that says, oh, you need to at least know a little bit of a programming language, which is Python, which is supposedly the easiest amongst all the programming languages.
From a programming language perspective, it depends on project to project, right? So we have seen very DevSecOps roles where there is a need for code analysis, right? So in those situations, knowing some kind of a programming language is going to be helpful, because you're manually going to look at the developer's code and try to identify any vulnerabilities or issues with that. I'm not talking about SaaS tools also is going to be there, but here SaaS is not there. This is a manual code. Probably you might have to look at that code and analyze what is happening out there. When you run the SaaS tool, you are the one who is going to help with the development team out there. In those situations, Python may or any programming language is going to be useful for you. In some situations, if there is some form of automation to be done, in those situations, Python makes sense. But in most of the cases, it does not make much. So it is not mandatory that you need to know Python. Having a little bit of understanding will be good, and probably you will be able to get some kind of an support to run some already pre-existing Python role to do your activity. You can probably make small changes to the code and then run it. But writing your own code is, I have not seen it as a mandatory, what I've seen out there. There are some cases, but not, it is like about 15% of the cases we may need, but major of the cases you don't see that happening out there, right? The main reason is DevSecOps is you're going to use the underlying infrastructure. Let's say you're using Jenkins, or you may be using some other format of it. Then you're going to add scanners to that perspective out there. Okay. So we'll talk about what is DevSecOps and why it is required out there. That is there. And again, one more question, number one you asked is AWS and AWS security professional, is it make sense or not? Uh, I think probably if you ask me, you can go with Security Plus. If you already have or other AWS certifications with you, going with Security Plus makes sense, because AWS Security Plus focuses less on security principles, right? But it focuses more on AWS security tools, right? So what are the tools that are available out there and why it is used and things and all. It's going to talk more about that. Whereas from a Security Plus perspective, you're going to understand what is the security, right? What are the different places a security could go wrong and where to fix it and things. It gives you bare minimum idea. If you're doing both, do Security Plus. If you're not doing the certification, at least go through the content, what is happening out there. So understand what is security is. Then probably going with AWS security makes sense out there. Right.
How
Yeah.
about if you have a Security Plus, can you have some little light on the CSUS level certificate like CISM,
Yeah. Yeah.
CSP?
Yes. I think if you're going, I would suggest rather than going with Security Plus, So AWS security, CISSP or CISM is much more, CISSP is probably the highest level
Holy Grail.
certificate for a managerial or an architect role. Okay. Architect role, this does not get any better than this. It takes some time. What they talk about, if you ask me, CISSP, a lot of people tell it is very difficult. I have not taken the exam, but I've gone through the content. It is not difficult, but the amount of content they're pushing is too much, right? So what they tell is that your CISSP is an inch deep, but a mile wide, meaning the depth of any topic you're going to talk about there. For instance, let's say the firewall topic, which we covered a couple of weeks back, is what is going to be there in your CISP topic itself. Okay, that is what is going to be covered. Firewall, that's it. They're done with that. So if you know that much, you can answer all of your CISP questions related to firewall. But the thing is that the amount of those topics are going to be covered is very high. I think they have about 14 domains, and again, those domains will have further divisions for that. So that is going to be there. So only thing is that it's going to take a bit more time to go through the content, but it is not something more relevant into that. But again, one more thing, CISSP is completely theory. There is not even a single command you have to learn to clear CISSP, right? But when you go to a meeting or you go into a discussion talking about cybersecurity, you will be in a very good position to tell what has to be done on that, right? From a technical role, right? So this is CISSP is more towards a technical managers who are there who want to implement security or manage security. Whereas the CISM is more towards a proper managerial role, right? Someone at an organization level, you have to maintain the compliance for the, certain organizations are forced to have ISO 27 or SOC 2 compliance or some other, GDPR compliance or anything like that. So for them, CISM is going to make a bit more sense. From a managerial role, it makes more sense of them. Both of them, this is at least there's some technical work going to be involved. This is completely a managerial approach to, to that. But yeah, so it again, CISSP roles to work more with senior management. Uh, they are less interacting with technical team and has much more into decision making roles, right? So they are going to tell how the process approach and go things were like that for that perspective, right? CISP has that. Uh, there's if you can get CISSP, I think chances of you having an interview and having a valid questions is very limited because they would. It is very difficult to get a CISSP certified engineers on that, right? So probably they would, even if something, even in your answering there's some kind of an shortage in your technical skills, they would really overlook all this because the amount of knowledge you bring from a process perspective, from a security principle perspective, you'll have a much more weightage. So technical skills can be acquired, they will help you train and things like that, and that's going to be that, right? Even in organization, once you're there, there are cases where even putting in your resume, currently pursuing my CISP and planning to take in a 30 days time or 60 days time, has actually got people interview, calls because of that as well, right? So you have to think, right? When you're going for the certification, you have to think what is the experience level you're having and what role you're applying for that, right? If you're someone who's been in IT for more than 5 years, your approach is going to be completely different compared to someone with 1 or 2 years of experience, right? If you have someone with 1 or 2 years experience, CISP may not be a good idea, mainly because CISP requires 5 years of experience in cybersecurity as a role, right? So there is a prerequisite for this certification exam. And even after taking the exam, you need to regularly do some certain trainings. You'll get points, and that you have to redeem with them to so that the certification gets renewed. Otherwise, you'll have to retake the certification, and that's not a good thing. Its amount of content is very high, right? And currently, they have an intelligent approach, right? So computer based where the the questions are going to get tougher as more number of right answers you answer. The next question is going to be tougher, and next question is again tougher. If you answer wrong question, it is going to give the same level of question. If you answer wrong again, it is going to reduce, right? So previously, I think when it was multiple choice, no adaptive was done. About 500 questions were there for CISP. I think it went on about for 6 hours continuous. Now it's not that, it's changed. They've changed it, so it is better. But yeah, so that would be someone with experience rather than going with AWS security. Practical, professional CISP would make more sense into that.
Now,
For the sorry, Mr. Menon. For the security plus, the training we have in DevOps in DevSecOps, is it enough for us to go for the exam, or do we still need to do some other training before we can go for the security plus?
I will have to check out the material syllabus. I think we do cover a lot of cybersecurity stuff. There may be certain topics missing out there, but we cover a lot. So that is that. So we cover from the basics of it, firewall and things and all. So I have not. We have to cross check it before telling you 100% yes, everything is covered out there.
That was exactly my question that
That's
Barabel
good.
just asked. Yes, I was going to ask the same question. Is it enough? Because I would like to do the Security Plus as well. I already have books, but I mean, I'm better with videos or live training. So is it enough, or with there's a particular training you guys have that would have to enroll in, or with what we are presently doing covers it?
no,
So
so
it will be
our training is not designed on any certification based thing, because our goal is not to clear any certification. Our goal is to
okay.
make sure that your profile should be, complete for the DevSecOps job role.
Okay.
If you notice our DevOps approach or DevOps training approach, we try to train on Linux and AWS cloud. The reason it make you need to work on that while you are join as a DevOps engineer. Same goes for our cybersecurity DevSecOps training. We are going to have little bit of Kali Linux and Linux approach. Furthermore, for our cybersecurity, along with that, some of the container security, and we are going to implement, I think, our upcoming training, because there are lots of vendor, they have lots of cyber certification, they have their different like modules to get the certification. We our aim is not to clear the exam or the get the certificate. Our goal is to make sure that you to while you are applying for DevSecOps job role, your position or you whatever tool set and whatever technology you are going to work, we are going to cover. But again, 70 to I think more than 80% is we are going to cover. It is by default it will be covered. It is not like we are covering it, by default it will be covered.
Thank you.
Just 1 second.
Yeah. And coming back to your AWS Security Plus, it is my personal advice or opinion, not advice, opinion. If you now, if if you want to showcase your security knowledge or expertise on through your certificates, try to get the certificates from the security vendors itself, not from the cloud vendors. If you want to showcase your cloud expertise, then go for the cloud solution architect is more than enough. If you
Yeah.
want to showcase your DevOps expertise, I think get one certificates like hardcore DevOps expertise you want to showcase or through certification, uh, then go for that Kubernetes or certification or container certification,
Yeah. That makes more sense. Right.
Okay.
because
So
they
when
are the
we
key players.
Yes. So when we look at security, it's predominantly the same thing wrapped around in different variations based on the particular underlying process what we are learning out there, right? Uh, it is just we are doing it in a different approach. For instance, when we do CI/CD pipeline implementation, we're talking more about scanners to do it automatic in implementation. We're just when we're looking at DevOps as without CI/CD pipeline, there we are running the scanners, security scanners manually, and then looking at how to go about from that perspective, right? So that is how it usually goes. So I think to start up with what we are saying, security plus makes a good chance. Then again, moving up to cloud-based security for DevOps and cloud certifications, and at the higher level of cybersecurity, CISP or CISM is going to make a very good process approach for you to do that. Again, it depends because again we have to look at where you're spending your money because you cannot have all the certifications. When you have all it, it is going to significantly increase the cost of your training as well, right? So then you also look at from your budget perspective, and that more importantly, the time spent for that, right? So that would be make a process for that. So look out. I would suggest is that check out with consultants who have done market research, who can help you tell this is the certifications we are looking at. Okay, because most of our clients, when we are connecting, we are proposing our candidates. These are the certification they are checking from us whether the candidates having the above certificates from that particular process. Then probably it makes more sense because it will help you with your consultant also to get your placement done in a better, easier way. At the same time, it will also help you better gel with the organizations as well because you'll go with the similar knowledge what people are already there. Either you can add value to that or you can understand and do a better communication of that for implementing the process. That makes much more sense, is what I feel. But certification definitely, it will certifications are always a general approach. They are they will tell you that you know about a certain topic, right? Only it is by experience working on that particular topic you are going to have the expertise level, right? Even the certificates will have expert written over it. It is not mandatory that you learn because there's one certification called CCI, Cisco Certified Internet Network Expert. It is the most difficult certification from CISP. I think all over the world there are only 10 exam centers, and in any exam centers about number of people clearing it is only 3%, right? And it's very expensive. It's an 8-hour practical thing. Their expectations, what I'm telling is they're telling that it's a 10 years experience certificate. People who have 10 years experience in Cisco equipments can take this certification and add value. There are a lot of places, a lot of students, what we see about 50% do take it up without experience also, right? So these people can't go. People who 50% who take without any experience can go there and configure the firewall or anything that is there for the Cisco devices without any kind of a support. They can do it, very well because they have that capacity. But from a design perspective, why they are doing certain activity, and based on a scenario, what decision has to take. When you're writing a rule out there in the firewall, what rule has to be taken? You need to, understand that particular path, right? So that you'll get from experience only. So certification is very important from an interview perspective.
But again, I would like to add one more thing. Certificates, what I our understanding is, it will attract the interviewer. It will bring the interviewer. If you have a certain certificate, like a now one certificate may not have that clear weightage. If you have a certain certifications in a group, interviewer will knock your door.
Yes,
But at the same time, the same time, it will your interview will be little bit harder or tougher
correct.
compared with our certificates because you are also making their expectation is little high.
Yes. I'll tell you one of my personal experience only. There was an interview for penetration testing. in one of the top firms in London for cybersecurity. I cleared all the rounds, but they told they're not continuing with me. The main reason is client is looking for a particular certification at that time, which I did not have. So they told unfortunately the client is having a service level agreement telling that anyone who's working on the project should have this much experience or they should be certified in this particular certification. There may be in some cases where they will tell this certification is mandatory. Without this, they cannot have the role. For instance, if you're going for CISO roles or someone information security officer roles, without CISP, they may not, encourage at all. So that is also there. Yeah.
Okay, I think we are good
Okay.
with the certifications topic.
Certifications, yes. Yeah. So next we'll talk about, a lot of people question is, guys, how do we start pen testing? Right? When we're doing previously all different Nmap and things, their question is going to be, how do we set up a Kali Linux? Right? How do we go about doing that part? Right? One of the first things that you'll have to do is that either you might want to install Kali Linux on your machine, but it has a lot of disadvantage because you'll have to overwrite your Windows and have to dual boot, and it will add a lot of technical issues for you. I would suggest to go install VMware. Okay. VMware is a tool that is available where you can run multiple operating systems inside your machine itself. You don't have to worry. And one of those machines can be Kali Linux, right? Okay. So I've already installed VMware. It is quite easy to get access to a VMware. You can download VMware workstation for Windows. You should be able to download this particular version, right? The process is very simple. You can go, I think VMware got recently took over by Broadcom, and you have to go inside Broadcom and then register, and they'll give a download link and you'll be able to install it. Right. So there I can run any number of virtual machines inside that you can see out there. Right. But our main goal here is looking from an installing 1 second. Right. Our main goal is how do I set up a Kali Linux and how do I download and what are the things I'm supposed to do in Kali Linux for me to continue with it. So first and foremost, before we could install Kali Linux, what we're supposed to do is we are first supposed to download Kali Linux. Okay. So let me do one thing. I've already opened the page here, but let me do it from first. Right. So go to google.com first. In Google, just type download Kali Linux. Okay. Once you click on this, you'll get a top link out here. Get Kali Linux is there. So click on that part. And here you could see there are things out there. So let me keep it on the light so it becomes easier. So I would most of the time if you want an installation disk for installing Kali, click on the installer image and you should be able to download an ISO file. But if you're working on virtual machines, VMware machines and things like that, I would suggesting click on virtual machines, right? So click on virtual machines. And once you come here, you can see there are many different versions of virtual machines out here, right? One is VMware, VirtualBox, Hypervisor from Windows and QEMU there. Since we are using VMware Workstation Pro 17 here, go with the VMware version out here, right? The file is about 3.2 GB size. When you click on this, it will download the version for you. Make sure you click on the VMware version on the top. Don't go for the VMware weekly version, right? This is basically for people who are testing and who want the latest thing, because here every week new things are added. So it can be a bit unstable. It can crash or sometimes certain tools may not work because it is not properly tested. Whereas the one we can see here, it is recommended ones are the ones which are tested. They will not have any issues or anything. Yeah. So click on them. So once you click on that, you will see it will start downloading for you. Right, you can see here it will start downloading. Let it download. Yeah, I'm going to cancel this download. The mainly because I've already downloaded that for me. Okay, so once you download, you will see something like zip file. Okay, zip file is downloaded. It's about 3.25 GB. So what you can do is that copy this zip file to anywhere of your choice, any location of your choice. Then right click on the zip file, right? Click on extract all, right? See, it is telling it is going to extract to a folder called Kali Linux 2024.4. This is the fourth version of 2024 years Kali Linux. Right, in this year there's released 4 versions. Every quarter they are going to release a new version, so it goes right 2024.1, 24.2.3 and .4, and go with this. Click on the extract. So this is going to take some time because the file size, even though it's 3.7, when you extract it, it is going to be much more higher than that. So usually I would, if you let me not extract it here, what I would do usually is that there's a tool called 7-zip. I would probably unzip it using that, right? If you don't have 7-zip, you can use Windows extract itself. Otherwise, you can go. For that, if you have installed 7-zip, make sure right click on show more options. You can see 7-zip here, extract to Kali. This is going to be much more faster, right? So it is going to be there. At the same time, you can see here the file extension is also 7Z only. All right, 7Z is the file extraction ending. So this is much better than doing that. Sometimes it is if you're having issue opening Kali machine after downloading, it may be some issue with the Windows extractor. So don't worry about that. So now we can see the file is extracted here, and now it is actually about 13.8 GB. When it's in zipped condition, which is 3.25 GB. After extracting, this is going to be 13.8 GB. So double click on it. There's one more folder. Double click on it as well. All right. Now all the icons are very small. I will view, click on large icons. Right. This makes a bit more easy. You can see there's so many files out here. And out of this, one of the files is looking different. See here, .vmx file. It is having 3 squares combined here, this logo. Double click on that. When you double click on that, it will open that machine in your virtual. See here, it came up here, right? So it will open up in your VMware workstation. You are not installing Kali Linux at all. It is coming pre-installed for you. When you are doing with other machines and everything, you have to go through when you download Ubuntu, you have to go through the installation process and everything. Then you have to create users and everything. That you don't have to worry here. It is very straightforward. Just click on power on this virtual machine. You will see the Kali Linux is pre-installed. Okay. Press enter. If in case you're using the installer image here and download the installer, it's about 4 GB. You will have to do the proper installation. You don't have, you cannot get a pre-installed version out here. Okay. So now by default, Kali Linux will have a default username and password. Username is Kali and password is also Kali. Okay. This is the default user. If you're thinking you can log in as root user, it's not possible in Kali Linux initially. We'll see. I'll tell you next. How do I unlock the root user out? So let me log in. Kali and Kali, press enter, and it is going to work. Okay. The main reason A lot of questions is going to be there. Wherever you go for pen testing, they'll tell you have to use Kali Linux. You should think, why is that? I have to use Kali. Why I cannot use Windows? Or why I cannot use Ubuntu also? Why I cannot do this part? Right? In fact, you can use any OS of your choice. There's no restrictions on which operating system you need to stick with for doing your activity out there. You can choose not mandatory to use Kali. I've seen a lot of people, my work, majority of my work, I do it on Windows. Okay. There are certain about 10 to 15% of the work I do it on Kali Linux, and Ubuntu I don't use for pen testing, right? The main reason for this is that why people go with Kali Linux is the tools. Okay. For instance, when you open Kali Linux, when you're logged in here, Kali Linux comes with more than 700 plus pen testing tools out there, right? You can click, see the start button is in the shape of a dragon here. Click on it and you can see here for each and different phases, there are different types of attacks. Just for password cracking, Crunch, Hashcat, Hydra, John, Medusa, and Crack, OP Crack, word lists and things. So many things are there for each and every different types of an attack. And every type of phases, there are different tools available out there in every Kali. And this does not happen in your Ubuntu machine or Windows machine, right? The reason why I use Windows is that there are certain tools, very limited number of tools, when I'm working on web application. Since I told my majority of my work is going to be on web application, the tool set for that is limited, right? Here you could see here, right? Now it does not come with any pre-existing tools for pen testing at all, right? So can you install those tools in Ubuntu and use Ubuntu? Absolutely. Most of the tools which are working in Kali Linux will work in Ubuntu without having any issues, right? The problem here is that you'll have to spend that initial time that you have to set up those tools and things on them, right? For instance, let's say my Kali Linux got corrupted. In VMware, it's very simple. What I will do is I can just go there, click on VM, manage, right, and delete that from the disk. I can delete this Kali Linux without having any issue. Come back, right? Again, extract it, right? Re-extract it and rerun the new fresh version of it. But when you're doing with Ubuntu, it becomes a bit of an issue because after deleting it, you will have to spend a significant amount of time setting up the Ubuntu machine because you have to reinstall all those tools, right? All the issues you face when you're resetting your Windows, right? You have to install your Windows operate or Microsoft Office and things, everything. That's the same scenario is going to happen here as well. But mind you, all the tools which are there in Kali will work, right? Kali Linux and Ubuntu are both based on Debian. If you're learning any commands in Ubuntu will work, same commands will work in Kali. If you're learning any commands in Kali, will also work in Ubuntu as long as the underlying process is there, right? So now one more thing you'll see, the root is not available in Kali Linux by default. But you might have seen me work on root itself. When I'm running nmap scan and things like that, I'm running as root user. That is not how do I do that approach, right? By default, Kali does not support you to run as root. You will have to run as Kali user only. And if you want to run any root privileges, right? For instance, let's say I want to see the contents of shadow file. It's telling permission denied. If I give same thing, sudo, I can view the contents of this file, right? But all the commands and things and all you might have to run with sudo. That can be quite difficult sometimes. So how do I enable root user in Kali? So I do have a shortcut for this. What I do is the sudo su root, right? Once I'm logging into root user without entering the root password because there's no password at the moment for the root user. Once I'm in root user, you could see root at Kali, it is there. I'm going to set a password for the root user. Passwd. I'm going to press enter. Then give whichever your choice of password out here. After this, root user is enabled. Okay. Log into root user and change the password for the root user. And once you've done that, this is going to happen out here, right? Ubuntu also does not support root user. This will not work in Ubuntu. Okay, you need to do more steps in Ubuntu for that. So let me log out of Kali user. Previously, we got an error message, right? Telling that this is no longer supported. Now I can log into root user. I don't have to use sudo. Now it will work, right? Because I've logged in as root by default. So if I give cat/etc shadow file, it's going to open it without using the word sudo. But make sure, if you are storing some sensitive information in your virtual machines, then I would not suggest enabling root user out there, right? It is not a good idea. If you're using for practice purpose, you want to make things easier and you're using in a limited scenario, then it makes a perfect sense for that, right? So Kali Linux itself is a very important tool set. And second tool that is important that is going to be there is the burp tool. Right? So it may not be installed. It should be there. Let me check here. Yes, burp suite is there. Okay. So burp suite is an important tool. It is predominantly used for capturing packets between the browser and the server, and this is very important out there. Some of the other tools in the meantime that we can use in Kali Linux is something called as a WAF. Okay, this basically tells if the website is having any firewall or not, and things like that is going to be present on there, right? So this is one tool that is going to be used by you. Along with this thing, when you're doing a web application testing, the main tool that is very, very important for you is your browser. Okay, is your browser. Browser adds a lot of processes, helps you with a lot of things. This is where you're going to be running most of your show, right? And for you to make things a bit more easier, there are certain add-ons that are required for you to work on it, right? So one of the add-ons is called as a cookie editor. This is predominantly so just make sure you enter Firefox out there, right? You'll get a Firefox add-on out there. And from there, you can make sure, click on add to Firefox, add exception, add here, and allow this to run in private windows, meaning you will be able to use this in the incognito mode as well, right? This is basically for capturing the cookies and related stuff to that. And one more thing you can also look is one more tool add-on is retired.js. This tool helps you out with if the website is using any vulnerable applications and things like that, it is going to help you with that part. And there's one more tool, Vapalizer. This tool helps you with identifying the underlying technology that is available out there. For instance, let's say I will open one web page called testfire.net. Right. So Vapalizer is one tool. Here it is going to tell me. Please see, it is telling the website is using Apache Tomcat, and the programming language that is used here is called Java, right? That is also is there, and it can give out much more detailed instructions also, right? So what is happening out there? I'll show you one more web page. This is a vulnerable web page, right? 146. Okay. So I'll show you how this is happening. Right. This is a vulnerable web page by design. And when you click on Vapalizer, it is giving out so much information. It is telling it is running an Ubuntu operating system. It is telling what PHP version Apache is, which one is using, and SSL and things and all. These are all low level vulnerability, that is available out there, which helps you and aids you in testing your application in a better way. At the same time, cookie editor, if you are seen in the previous session, we could saw that there was a session ID that was used. This cookie editor will help you identify what is the session ID that belongs to that particular user for that particular website out there. So this is predominantly how it will go. Some of the tools that can be used here is Dirby is one of the tools that is there. Hydra is one of the tools that can be used by us. But you might not know, right? You might not know how to use any particular tool that are available, right? So number of tools that are there is very high. So for us to overcome that situation, Kali tools wiki we can put. So kali.org.tools. Here you will have all the tools that are there. And again, right? So for instance, let's say when you click on Hydra or GoBuster, this will give you a detailed description of the tool that is available out there, along with how do you run the tools as well. What are the different options and things? How do you run the tool and things? Everything will be given out here with the syntaxes as well. So here, the basic syntax Hydra -L, and again it is giving out here, right? So that is how these tools can be useful out here. It is not that all the 700 plus tools are unique and they do 700 different activities. No, there are a lot of tools that are there which will do the similar activities, right? For instance, let's say we got something like a Go Buster out here, and there's one more called as a Dir Buster out here, right? Both of them will do a similar attack under checking what are the directories available out there. So it's just that the way they operate is different. So based on your requirement, you can check which would make a better approach to that, right? So that will help you out with that part. So these are the bare minimum tools that way which I use for my pen testing. 90% of the time, this is more than sufficient. I do use Deerbuster sometimes, right? Deerbuster is used by me, not sometimes, for every activity. First stages, I do that as well. There's also something called as a Zap tool out there, right? So we check, is Zap installed? apt update first. Before installing anything, make sure you update the APT. Then you can APT install. Usually we'll see sudo apt install. Since I'm logged in as root user, I don't need sudo party. Sudo apt install zap proxy. So it is downloading this. This is very much similar to burp, but this can also be used for scanning website for any vulnerability. Right? And this can be used for scanning websites and everything out there. This, especially when we are doing DevSecOps, Zap plays a very important role in the dash scanners. There will be no user interface out there when you're using DevSecOps because it's working at an API level. It knows what to do and it generates an output information for that it will do out there. Right? That's how it works. But these are the bare minimum tools that you look at it. Right? So once you get comfortable with this, doing your basics of pen testing is going to be very much more easier out there for you. Right? What are the other tools we use? I told WAF we use Wireshark very rarely. I use Wireshark only for training purposes because to show how the packets are managed in real time, I don't see. WP scan and things and all that happens usually when I am working on the web, WordPress websites. WP scan is WordPress scanner. It checks for vulnerability in WordPress websites of them. But again, it depends. Right? Depends on what is that you're working on, things like that. The more you get to do the research, you'll see few other tools out there. Right. It might look overwhelming at the starting, like what is that Karthik is doing a lot of activities. It is not that overwhelming. It is just that you're looking at it for the first time. It may look a bit complex, but it's very simple. The only thing in any Linux or anything is that the more number of times you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get, right? Practice as much as possible out there. So it becomes much more second level out there for you, right? So, because a lot of times they do ask in the interviews also, what are the tool sets that is used? If someone is telling they don't use burp or zap on their day-to-day activities, and they're working on web application, it means they're lying. They don't know anything about web application testing because either one of them is not there. You can't do a proper quality check, right? It means that they may be running just a scanner somewhere and they're thinking they're doing a proper manual pen testing. Okay. So any questions? That's it for the basic setup for Kali Linux, like what people are asking. The reason why there's not much of a problem here is that all the tools are pre-installed. Right. So, but we should know where to find other things that are there. Okay. So any questions out here, guys? So what part of installation here did not make sense, or what part we did not understand? I think everyone understood everything perfectly. Great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
It is just about practice, understanding, right? So if you take any any pilot of any aircraft, initially even though because pilots are most intelligent people out there, you'll feel because quite the entry requirement there is quite difficult, and you see they're much more capable in terms of intellectually. Even them, they will have a checklist before taking the aircraft to the air. They have to go through a set of checklists to check everything is fine. Similarly, from a pen tester's perspective, we all will have a pen testing checklist, right? Along with that, we are going to do some other activities as well to check, but we will also stick to the pen test checking. These are the different checks that has to be completed. So is the website having password policy enabled out there? Am I checking it? Is it following? Yes, it is following. If it not, then it's a vulnerability. Then again, look at that. How is the forgot password policy set up out there? It is done properly? Then check out there. Then again, if it not, we have to enable, look at other different things as different variations. We're talking about sessions, how it is done. Are there any default passwords or things? Those are the different checklists that you're going to do out there, right? And it is very important, right? A lot of people, I've seen really good quality pen testers, they will think they don't need a checklist, they can do it, and they'll miss out some of the things, right? It is not that you're looking at 10 to 15 or 25 different variations of vulnerabilities in a website. You're actually looking at around almost 200 different, every web page you're looking at there. In some cases, every page in a website, you have to look for those vulnerabilities, right? So it can be quite overwhelming. It's like fishing. You're putting up a much more wider net, looking at where you can catch a fish vulnerabilities in a similar way, right? So practice makes perfect, because once you do practice, you'll understand where that vulnerabilities will be lurking and what vulnerabilities will be lurking. It makes it much more easier to concentrate on that particular point, right? So that is how it goes into play. Yeah. And again, just take 5 more minutes, right? So so usually what happens is that once the website goes into production, right? This is done, given for pen test from an external vendor. The team is not going to do. The external vendor is going to do. That is like a consultant like me is going to take that website and going to check out that. So when I do that, I'm going to, because I've got a lot of experience in pen testing and hacking, what is that I'm going to find a lot of vulnerabilities, right? And typically this is going to be around, 20 to 30 different vulnerabilities based on the application that is present out there, right? So when this happens, right, make a report. I'll make a report and send it to the dev team. Now the dev team is going to face a lot of problems because, first of all, I'll be sending it on a Friday. So their weekend is spoiled, first of all, right? Because I do test from Monday to Friday and I have to send a report on that. So now the problem is, and I'm just kidding out there, the weekend is, but the problem is that now there are 30 vulnerabilities in there and they require 30 code changes. And sometimes these code changes can be at an application level. It is not going to be as simple as that. It could sometimes take a couple of months to clear it, right? Literally, I've seen people take 60 to 70 days sometimes to close all vulnerabilities, right? They will close the critical vulnerabilities immediately within 10 days sometimes. Usually it's supposed to be 48, but depending on the situation, they're going to do that. But still the problem is this is going to affect the product or the website that's going to be there. Instead of the development team working on new features, they are wasting their time on adding these functions to the security patches to the application, and they are missing a lot of their other deadlines, right? And certain times coming up with a product and issuing it on time is important. For instance, especially during December, a lot of these offers and websites are getting up for that for more than 6 to 7 months. If it get delayed by even 2 weeks, they have lost a lot of business. It does not make sense for that. So for this, what they wanted was they wanted to find vulnerabilities earlier. Meaning, they don't want me to find 30 to 41, 20 to 30 vulnerabilities. They want to reduce it, right? So how do they do that part? So that is where your DevSecOps comes into play, right? A lot of these 20 to 30 vulnerabilities can be identified 50% using scanners itself, right? Sometimes even 70% can be identified using scanners itself, right? And different stages that is happening out there. And that is what is happening on the DevOps section, right? In the CI/CD pipeline, one thing is the DevSecOps engineer knows about these vulnerabilities. So during design phase itself, is going to recommend remediations or techniques to overcome the issues, right? So the vulnerabilities are fixed in the design phase itself. Even if that some issues are there, they can be in the CI/CD pipeline. We'll have scanners. There are many different scanners. SAST is for source code scanning, checking for any vulnerability in the source code. DAST is looking at dynamic level, right? Looking at different things. And something called as a software composition analysis is that we'll be using something like JavaScript or any third-party tools, right? Third-party tools security is not in the hands of the developer, but it is the developer hands what is having. It is making sure he is using a secure third-party developer. How does it know is it secure or not? The SCA tool is going to be help you with that, identifying this. And now, since we're using Dockers and things, how do you know the container is secure or not? Right? Again, we're having a security scanner for that. Right? So this is going to happen at the pre-production level itself. I'm able to identify a lot of vulnerabilities out here. So even if I'm really good, right, instead of getting 20, 30 vulnerabilities, it significantly goes down to 5 to 6 vulnerabilities. On an average, I'm not telling. This is not exact numbers. Each website is different. Each way it is going to happen is different. Right? What I've seen in general is that where the situation where they have design phase, they're working on it, then again they're implementing different stages. The vulnerability goes down significantly low. Not only that, previously there'll be a lot of high and critical and medium vulnerabilities and low vulnerabilities. Now the 5 of them will be predominantly medium or low vulnerabilities. The high and critical ones would have been addressed previously, right? So now this becomes a bit more easier to fix. So now even if the development team getting the report to fix 5 vulnerabilities, it will take less time for them to fix it, right? At the same time, their application is not insecure, reaching out, right? So by the time I do the pen test and send out, there's a possibility for it to be get hacked. And realistically, that's possible. Now that also has been removed out here, right? The chance of redoing the application is reduced significantly, reducing the cost of the project and also increasing the security of the project. And that is what is happening out there. And that is the reason, right? Internally, they also do pen test now. Even though I'm doing out there, there's an internal pen tester. These internal pen testers are not usually as good, usually not always, usually as good as an external pen tester because external pen testers will know to test different applications, different. You can tell them like special ops soldiers, they are more in, they're fighting on a regular basis. So they know more about vulnerability, right? So that is where our DevSecOps course content comes into play. We're talking about Linux services. We talk about pen test. We talk about DevSecOps role of them. And that is where we are seeing the pen test roles are going down significantly and the DevSecOps roles are going up. It is not that there no need for pen testers. It is just that they're asking for the pen testers to come with DevSecOps knowledge as well, right? So that is what they're happening out there. So the pen test roles are being converted to DevSecOps roles. They are asking them to upgrade them to DevOps toolset and DevSecOps toolset and work on it. That is how predominantly how the process is going, right? So any questions in this perspective?
Yeah, can I ask just one?
Yeah, please.
It's just wonderful to know so much information when it comes to cybersecurity, DevSecOps in particular. I'm simply just asking from a simple software engineer who's just transitioned to DevSecOps. And when it comes to, for example, like the certifications, CompTIA, and all these others, as you pointed out, that it is important now that, as a software engineer, you have to have these um, security skills that you must have. But my question will be, if that is now a requirement, where's the bridging of the gap when it comes to these certifications, where even if you have the money to pay for it, they still require you to undergo extensive, work experience before you can even sit down to qualify for that exam in its own, regardless of
Uh,
past.
yeah. Now, from an pen testing perspective, it differs mainly because it's more into understanding where to look from that and from not from an experience perspective, right? It means more into more how much you have practiced into that process is what I feel. Certifications from fantastic perspective, it will help you bridge that gap. So that is good. You're understanding what tool to be used and things. Uh, that is what usually when you go from a pen testing perspective, you understand how the websites are going to be vulnerable, how the remediation is going to work. Secondly, when you're using from a DevSecOps, a lot of tool sets are used for scanners. And again, it will help you since you have already have an pen testing understanding, right? It will help you out with how do you read those scanner results, right? Then again, these scanners will get a lot of steps on how do you recover and what is the remediation steps, what are the fix for the vulnerabilities as well. So that you're going to deal with that part, right? So the certifications helps you with that. And again, projects that you're going to work on. And one of the projects, as I told, right, DSO, sorry, BBox, this is one of those machines that we work, right? Vulnerable machines that are there. Quite a few vulnerable machines are there, which will help you identify uh, different attack vectors, right? So you can see there's a lot of attack vectors out here. And if you have right set of tool sets and checklist, I think this will, it is not something that you will get an expert in 1 or 2 months time, but couple of months time definitely you can have a lot of understanding how it's happening out there. Is that what your question was, Ernest?
Um, kind of, but I was leaning more towards, let's say I'm already working with a certain company. Would it be wise to, remain in that company, or seek out to have that certification and then move on into the ocean and find another company? Because
If you're working in development already, all right?
okay.
If you're working in development already, web application pen testing is going to be extremely easy out there for you, right? What it will time taken by others to understand web application, say pen testing is bit more because they will not have an understanding how the web application is working. Since you're already working as a web application engineer, you know how the interactions between the server and the client is happening out there. And again, you're already used to using developer toolsets. Predominantly, hacker toolsets are predominantly are developer toolsets modified to do certain extra activities out there. So it will help you out with that. I personally, uh, from that perspective, it's not going to be an issue, right?
So
So if
here,
yeah,
sorry, Mr. Karthik, let me give a brief the background of Ernest. I think you don't like Ernest. He's our DevOps students. I think he joined one or two session before. It is very happy. We are very happy to announce that Ernest also secured a job recently. So Ernest, the best solution for your scenario is don't leave the job. Continue the project, and if you are while you are working, try to gather, because some of this CSURS level of certificates you needs like CISM or CISSP, you need some your managerial approval as well as some LOR, okay, letter of recommendation. uh, Even most, if you are working on a full time, so in big organizations, most of these high paying or are highly costly, this certification is cost covered by your employer, okay. So while you are in the project, try to get the certifications from your company as a corporate training. Now once you got the project, then got the certification, then try to explore the other domain. I don't so far as per my knowledge, even if you are working right now, I know you are working as a DevOps engineer right now, but still your company, most of the company, they have a no boundary that you cannot go for the cybersecurity or DevSecOps certification.
yes,
Am I answer you correctly?
yeah.
Did I?
Probably you can actually propose security
Yes.
changes in your own team. Uh, when you do that, you'll be able to implement security in a staged manner, and it will also highlight in your resume and in your career perspective as well that as a team lead you took up security as an initiator and do that activity, right? And a lot of job roles we are getting is that, so someone who can come in and set up a DevSecOps environment. They're already having a DevOps environment, they don't know how to implement DevSecOps out there. So probably you can use your current employer, probably increase the better their security, but looking at it how they can improve. And you can do learn how to do pen testing on their actual websites and identify vulnerabilities which will actually improve the security of your current employers applications, right, man?
No, so meaning that if I can highlight that and sort of have a proven record that I've actually implemented those kind of things,
Yes,
it puts me in a position that, oh, okay, thanks,
yeah.
thanks.
So not only that, because there's a lot of things that you learn or going to a situation where the things is already set up and doing certain activity, your experience is going to be different than raising something from the ashes. Something, nothing is there, you're starting from fresh. You'll see that because there you're doing a lot more interaction with the senior management, getting the approval and getting the team ready and things. There's a lot of other soft skills that you're developing as well. Yeah, that is there, that you don't learn from anywhere else. So that would be a good approach.
No, thank you, Mr. Karthik. Thank you, Mr. Menon.